welcome to the CMN Church Planting Podcast. My name is Aaron Burke. I'm glad that you're joining us. We are a podcast that helps church planners, church leaders, church multipliers constantly get better. We add value to your life every single month. And whether you are listening to this on any kind of our platforms to listen to podcasts or watching this on YouTube, we're glad you're with us. Hey, if you're not following us on Instagram, make sure you do that. Our CMN Instagram is where we put reels and different content for that. And we have our annual conference every March in Houston. And if you want to plant a church, we have iwanttoplantatchurch.com, where really hundreds and hundreds of people fill out information every single month so that we can really help navigate them to be the best church planners, to see the dream that God's put in your life become a reality. And today I'm with the Soler family, and I'm so excited about this.
Got it.
And we got Alex and Eddie with us, and they are multipliers in the church. And I've been looking forward to this conversation, heard about you guys many different times. So I want to hear a little bit about y'all's story. Why did you plant a church? And then we'll get in some nuts and bolts of even multiplication.
Yeah, that sounds great. Aaron, I just want to take a moment also and just honor you. This is a big deal for us.
Yes.
It really is an honor. I mean, you're an incredible pastor, leader, and your voice is such an important piece of what's happening in our movement. And so you've been helping us so much from a distance, so we appreciate it. But my wife and I planted Vertical Encounter in 2015. Waukegan, Illinois was Chicagoland, basically. Everybody says Chicago, but it's Chicagoland area. 2015, went through the CMN launch track, and it was incredible. In fact, we're going to plant in a different city initially. And through the launch process, we found out there was this list, the top 10 cities. Waukegan was number 9.
Wow.
And so pulled us back home. Since then, we planted a Spanish church in 2019. Right. And then 2022, we planted in North Chicago, currently working on 2 more campuses, one in a jail. The other one's going to be an Indian campus, Indian culture campus. And we also parent a Spanish church in North Chicago as of just a couple of years ago.
This is remarkable because all of this has happened in the last 9 years,
Right.
like 9 years. This
9 years, yeah.
a whirlwind. All right, Eddie, just tell me a little bit about the family. What made y'all want to plant? Were y'all all on board from the very beginning?
Well, that has been a journey. We had 2 boys, Jacob and Joshua, 13 and 11. They're both part of the ministry. Obviously, for us at first, that this was not the dream to become a pastor, church planters. We just wanted people to know Jesus. So we started Bible study in our home with 4 people. That grew into about 35 people within a month. Next thing we know, we are knocking down walls in our basement.
Yep.
People are coming, and now almost 9 years later, now we're here.
That is remarkable. Tell us about how y'all do this together. Like, what's been the flow? Has it?
Yeah. Still learning the answer to that. I think for us, one of the things is, and CMN helps so much with this, is getting spiritual fathers and mothers involved from the get-go. We didn't have that at the beginning, however, so there was a lot of conflict. I was bivocational at the beginning, kind of transitioned out of it about a year in or so, year and a half in. My wife has been bivocational up until now, by the way, literally now, taking that step of faith. But it's taken a lot of intentionality, a lot of mistakes.
So you've been working outside of the church and in the church and in the home.
Yeah, three full-time jobs.
That is 3 full-time jobs. How have you managed all that?
It's you kind of survive.
Yep.
You do the best you can, but at the same time, you have to find time for family, knowing that family is first, right?
Yes.
So the work of the church, that's always going to be there. Working in the community is always going to be there, but being intentional, being with your family and making time, to me, that was number 1, and that has been number 1. So oftentimes what we've done to kind of balance that is when I'm not home, he's home, and vice versa. So we try to not book things at the same time. If we do, we are so thankful for our parents, who are always a great support. But it is a challenge. And that's the reason why now I feel like, okay, Lord, you're growing this. And I believe that this is the right time for me to step into full-time ministry, which, a lot of prayer, a lot of faith, but we're believing that this is the right way to go.
And I think, too, what she's done an incredible job with, Aaron, is talking, communicating. I'm like 100 miles per hour.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
she's done such a great job in slowing us down and saying, hey, this is where we're at. I'm going to be real and raw. And that's really been the anchor of this journey of multiplying.
I love that. Saying yes to an outside job, obviously because of need and because of finances, and understanding that means you have to say no to a lot of things, even within the church. Like, how have you overcome people's, I'm sure they've had a lot of expectations on you, you were bivocational too. Like, I want us to talk to the bivocational pastors out there that feel like there's a lot of guilt they feel when they're saying no to people. They go, I just can't, I have another job. Like, how have y'all managed that?
I learned something early on from Pastor Choco. Actually said this to me one time. He said, Alex, people's marriages are more important than a toothache. In other words, when people have a toothache, they call the dentist and they take half days off.
Yes.
They're leaving work early. They're making appointments and things like that. And it was so wise. And he just poured that into us. He said, listen, if people really care, you gotta care for what matters most, your family, your home base, your marriage. Set your week up in such a way. Yeah, there's got to be some flexure, as we say every once in a while, some flexibility in structure. But that really matters. Like, if help build that culture of your marriage matters so much more than neck pain or whatever it is, and you're willing to take a week off, right?
Yep.
Week off from work, my neck hurts, and man, if it's your marriage, if it's an addiction, if it's something else, let's value that and schedule time around it that makes sense for everybody, so that we're not allowing other important things to suffer, right? Because of a moment.
Your marriage is more important than a toothache. That is brilliant.
Put that on the t-shirt, man.
I'm telling you, that is really good.
Yeah.
Eddie, how have you navigated that? The expectations of people being pulled between multiple different ways?
Well, that at the beginning was a challenge because I'm a teacher. And so we work Monday through Friday during the day. So the only time that I had to meet with people was in the evenings. So that's when Alex and I were like, okay, how are we gonna do this? So sometimes his days will be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Those are his evenings. I will do like Tuesday, Thursday type of deal. Sometimes Saturdays, depending. But now at this point, almost 9 years in, it has gotten heavier. So a decision had to be made. And that's the reason. Well, if you are doing this kind of work bivocational, it's kudos to you. We know it's not easy. We know it's not something that anybody can do. But at the same time, you also have to know, like, when is that timing for you to kind of step out of work? Because it's difficult to do both.
It is very difficult to do both. And I know many people have done them for years. And there is a faith component of you going, it doesn't make sense financially yet, but we're going to take the faith step.
Yeah.
And I know that's probably a decision y'all made together after a lot of prayer. That's a big one. Talk me through the church itself. So you started in your living room, the basement, then you launched it. How did it work? Give me the timeline.
Yeah. So timeline, October 2014, we're discipling 4 people on our couch, quite literally. 4 people, October 2014 turned into 31 people actually in December 2014. Wow. So there's no more room. People are sitting on our stairs. It's nuts. This is midweek, by the way. This is not Sunday anything. So we're just chilling, a bunch of young kids, and they're staying late. We have little ones. I'm like, oh Lord, what's happening? So we decided, okay, something's happening here. We have the blessing of some elders and some of the church folks that we grew up in, and had a recording studio in the basement, and said, okay, we're going to have to knock down a wall. So we knocked down a wall in our basement and did what we thought was right. We set up chairs and put a TV on the wall, had a keyboard on the side. We had kids ministry in the garage, which was ghetto, but it awesome. It worked. And then we got connected with AG. We got connected with Church Multiplication Network, and 2015 went through launched the church in September 2015. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Spanish Church officially launched in 2019. However, we tried to do it 2 years prior to that and failed.
Yes. Good. I want to talk about that because I want to talk about the fail moments, because everybody, we're impressed with people's strengths, but we're impacted by their weaknesses and their failures. So I want to talk about that, but let's talk just the early days of the church when you officially launched? Did you move it out of your basement? Did y'all stay in there? What
Oh,
was
yeah,
that?
yeah. That's a good question. We should have clarified that. So, no, we didn't launch in the basement.
All right.
We launched in a school setting. So we had a school building, two big kind of areas, one for main worship, one for kids area, and some offices.
Did people show up first day?
Well, yeah, we had about 250 people show up first day.
It's a remarkable launch.
It was an awesome launch. We had such a great time. And yeah, we did our thing there and quickly realized, so in our area, we're 56% Hispanic. And so a lot of people that look like us, but wasn't all Hispanic, but mostly second generation Hispanic folks. And so we launched healthy, we launched strong, and a lot of young people were coming, and then their parents started coming.
Yes.
And that's where we freaked out a little bit because a lot of them didn't speak English.
Right.
But this was their church. They saw their kids' lives being transformed. And my wife is a first generation immigrant. So instantly we were like, Spanish church. This is going to be easy. Like people are already here.
Yeah.
We just do everything in Spanish and kind of went down that road and hit a wall pretty quick. We overwhelmed ourselves. We overwhelmed our team. It was quite a disaster the first time around.
All right, tell me about the disaster of this.
Well, we had 2 kids in diapers around that time, and trying to have services for the Spanish. Okay, who's going to lead? How are we going to do this? Who's going to serve? So, and what we realized is like, okay, and this is a passage that spoke to me during that time. When Jesus says, "The needy will always be around you." So we knew that was a need, but we were not ready to meet that need at that moment. Yeah. And I think it was almost 4 years later that, okay, now we're ready. Now we can do it. Yeah. But at the beginning, it was that, it wasn't a whole lot of people coming, but we felt like, okay, we have about 10, 15 people who speak Spanish, so we're going to do something for them. But then we realized like, oh my gosh, if that's the way that we're going to do this, we're going to cater to every problem that comes, that's dangerous, because you kind of lose sight of what you're called to do.
That's right.
And you're
Very
just being
good.
responsive in the moment to everything that's happening. So we learned that very quickly.
Not every idea is supposed to happen in that season.
Yes.
And I think that's where it's the recognition, because it could have been, which we now realize is the right idea, just in the wrong time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think there's some people that are looking at this even to plant a church or go multi-site. When you think about what is the secret sauce to a success like Alex and Eddie here, or, when people look at Radiant, I'm like, timing is everything. You want to make sure your marriage is in a healthy spot, your kids are in that healthy spot. And then when we went multi-site, it was the same thing. Like, do we have something worth multiplying? You want to duplicate mediocrity.
Really good.
So you go and you launch a Spanish church, really,
Yep.
and it doesn't work. How long did it take you to realize this isn't working right?
Yeah, about 6 or 7 months. I think it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, we felt it right away.
Were y'all doing a different service time? What were y'all doing?
Different service time is what it was, and so we did it early. It's early morning type of thing, and really we just undervalued the idea of systems and processes. We just saw the need, as my wife mentioned. We saw, okay, we speak both languages. We already have an English team. Hey,
Right.
you don't have to play guitar in Spanish. You know what I mean? So
Right.
just
They're ready to go.
Just kind of make it happen. And so, we realized it pretty quick. And thankfully, we had some good people in our lives to speak into it and say, hey, look, doesn't have to be right now. Let's rethink this. Let's pray about it. Let's build your team, build your people. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But thankfully we did. I guess I don't know if the right phrase is kill it.
I was going to ask though, how'd you kill it? Most people don't have the courage to kill something that's not working. That's a hard thing to do.
It is. It is because there's a romantic mindset behind church multiplication that we have to be very careful with. It's this idea of, I want to be married to what everybody's talking about. Man, we're going to multiply. And there's some pride that gets in there, man. There's some pride that sinks in. And so for us, killing it was as simple as, hey, we're just going back to one English service. This is what we're doing. And we talked to our team in the background. And you know what? It's not easier than I thought it was going to be, because our team was like, thank you.
Yeah.
We didn't want to tell you because we loved you and we believe in the dream, but like, we're just not feeling this right now. And so it was really this undertone of poor vision casting. It was so quick. But like I said, we killed it. Waited a couple years, did everything right, got some coaching, tightened up some things, built a separate team for our Spanish church, and man, the Spanish church is killing it right now. I mean, they are amazing.
One thing that we felt led to do was to, it's not just to kill it per se, but also offer people choices, right?
Right.
We part of a community. There's other churches. There's people that we knew, and we offer that too. Hey, down the street, there's another Bible church that teaches the gospel. They speak Spanish. That's an option. The other thing was anybody who wanted to translate during the service and sit in the back seat and translate. So
we'll figure it
those were things that we did. And, out of that group, there were people who stayed with us until we were ready. Yeah. So we thank God for that.
Yeah.
So then you decide to multiply and do it right this next time. So your first time really multiplying was now 2019.
Correct.
And tell me the process of what y'all do.
Yeah, so we did everything we didn't do the first time.
I love that. That's wisdom right there, by the way.
That was the answer.
Yeah, learn from your mistake.
No, we really just applied many of the principles we learned here at launch, and so at CMN launch, and so interest parties, a lot of prayer gatherings.
Right.
Yes.
Part of it for us, and this is kind of a cultural thing, we really had to fight against the traditional church mindset, right? And so a lot of our churched Spanish folks, first generation immigrant folks coming from different places, the value system of church was so different that our group wanted to move into straight services from the beginning.
Yes.
And so we really started with a dinner church model at the beginning.
Right.
So it was a lot of food, a lot of fun, round tables. We quite literally put butcher paper on all the walls to teach the kids good habits, to run on the walls. So it was more, we had to go back, and this for Spanish context, we went back to the Hispanic values of family and food and fun.
I love that. And I'm sure it was some good food. I love some Hispanic food. So
good.
So you launch it. How is it different than, just another service? Like what did y'all do that made it a legit, like, hey, this is now we are two different kind of congregations, or is it one congregation? What's your model with that?
Yeah, with that specific campus. So a couple things. First, we had to build a separate team. I know it sounds simple, but because most of our team is bilingual, it was easy for us to kind of use people in both spaces. It made things very dangerous very fast for us. Okay. So we built a completely different team. A lot of the things we do the same. We're on the same series. A lot of the worship is similar. Some of the differences, a lot of the events are kind of revolving around missions around Latin America. Yep. And we do a lot of missions themed stuff. For example, one of the anniversaries I think we did where everybody came in with their cultural dress and
fun and
taste of lots of food. So it's more of that. Our small groups are a little bit different too, right? So on English side, small groups are what we would traditionally talk about as small groups. For our Spanish side, though, there's a little bit more of a Bible study, traditional. Right. We've tried both models, and it just works when we do the Bible study kind of mentality for our small groups.
When was your next time multiplying? What did y'all do next?
Yeah, so we did North Chicago next. That was 2022.
What was that?
So the initial plan was, this true story. So I just thought of this. I was in bed listening to a recording of, I think, one of the CMN conference breakouts featuring this guy named Aaron Burke.
Hey, I know that guy.
This is a true story. And you talked about, and I'm going to mess it all up, so I apologize, but it was a list of what to look for in a planter or something like that. I don't know, it's a top 12 or top 10.
Top qualities of a campus pastor.
Yeah, it was like 10 or 12, something like that. So I'm listening to this, and I'm like, man, this is good stuff. But you're hitting each point, and the same couple came coming into mind. This is our original guys. It was so amazing. So I'm listening to this. I'm like, man, this sounds like Josh and Liz. It's Josh and Liz. And I'm just freaking out. I'm like, man, but they're our right-hand people. They're like, I can't let them plant. This is different. And so anyways, long story short, I just felt God just really, really touched my heart and said, this is my calling for their lives. It is time to release them and bless them. Influential person in our life is Jeff Leake, and that's
so great.
That's what he's all about. And so this was a time for us to really practice kind of what we preached, and so we initially thought about a different city that we have more resources, connections in, and kind of a long story short. Spoke to Josh about it. Pastor Josh is our campus pastor. Say, hey, Josh, we're looking at the city of XYZ, and we have all the resources. We have a building. We have high school ready. Like, we got money. We're ready to go. And he says, all right, cool. I was like, I thought I'd be more excited about this. And he goes, hey, what about North Chicago? And I said, well, it's on the list. We just don't have all the connections there yet. And I kept talking about this other city, getting excited, and he just didn't have that spark in him. And finally, I just said, hey, man, what's up? What's up, dude? Like, you were excited when we talked about planting a couple of weeks ago. Now we're talking about a city. And he said, well, look, Alex, if you tell me to go to Canada, I'm going to Canada. Like, I'm just doing it. But North Chicago reminds me of home. He grew up in Chicago, Humboldt Park area, kind of a rough area. Yes. And the city of North Chicago, it's not north of Chicago, it's the city of North Chicago, is very much like the south side of Chicago. It's rough. And he says, man, every time I go to North Chicago, I feel like I'm home.
Wow.
So it's a family to me. I go have coffee there. I see the neighborhood, and it's like how I grew up. And I was like, that's important. And so we took a couple days. We drove around the city. We were praying, and we just knew that this was the next step in the direction God wanted us to. So that's how it initially got started.
I want to just emphasize that because a lot of people are thinking of going multi-site, going into different towns. And what I have realized, it's you're such a good leader. Y'all are so smart in this, is you never want to talk someone into going to the town.
That's right.
Like, if you talk them into going to the town, you're going to have to talk them into staying in the town. But if they go where they're passionate about, then they'll fall in love with the city. I've had a couple of the campus pastors go, well, I don't want to be there. I'll live in this part of the town, but I'll drive over there. Right. And I realize I go, okay, you don't even want to live in that area. You're not going to reach them. Yeah. But to have that kind of passion, that was a good call. I want to talk just real quick is the idea of releasing people like that, and maybe even people leaving the church. Maybe people like releasing people that have been with y'all, that have gone out and planted. How have y'all dealt with this? Especially, how have you dealt with it? I know there's the emotional connection, their family. How have y'all handled that?
I think for the most part, going back to what Alex mentioned of knowing when they're ready, right? And it is true. You feel like part of you leaves you, but you know that there's purpose behind it. Yes. So it's not that they're just leaving the church. They're now an extension of the work that you started. Yes. And I think that's the key, knowing that, they're multiplying, knowing that they're enhancing the kingdom of God, and that hopefully some of the stuff that they learn from you, they're putting it to practice. So that's kind of it hurts a little bit. Yes. It hurts, but at the same time, you know that there's purpose behind it.
It's parenting. It's parenting 101. I heard somebody say sometimes the church can be like, so opposite of what family can be, right? So like, as parents, we're hoping our kids move out at some point. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to do everything we can to build them up for the real world as they grow up and move out. And with Josh and Liz, those campus pastors specifically, they were with us since day zero.
Beginning, yeah.
Like, they were doing kids ministry in the garage with us, like straight up. And so to release them was a big deal, but it was also a parenting moment. It was like, yo, you know everything. Like, you're part of you're the culture here. Like, you guys get it. And so there's no better moment. It's sad. It hurt. There were times where we were like, did we make the wrong decision? What were we thinking? But then there's the principle of what God does afterwards, man. Like, as we release them, as we celebrate them, as we sent a team with them, by the way, we sent off a team and resources and all that good stuff. God is, you can't replace Josh and Liz per se, but God has multiplied leaders in our church. And we have seen such an amazing growth from that release as well. So it's parenting. You don't have, nobody wants a 45-year-old kid in their basement playing video games, eating all their food all the time. At some point, it's like, all right, you're ready to go.
They had to grow up with everything.
They got to. We're going to have some moments. We're just encourage some church planners and church leaders in the last couple of minutes, but just give us what's happened recently. I mean, so that was your third. the camps. What's the future? What else has happened? And you were talking about an Indian congregation. Like, what else is happening?
Yep. So we are parenting another church, Senda Antigua, which is a Spanish church. They're specifically reaching immigrant Hispanic families.
Amazing.
So they're doing a great job. We're just helping them with systems, getting some healthy things going. We'll be launching an Indian campus next year in September 2025, God willing, and then a campus in the local jail, in the county jail as well. And that came out of nowhere. Both situations kind of came out of nowhere, but really excited about that. So
it's amazing how the Lord's used y'all in multiplication at such an early stage in the church. And I know it's hard. I know it's painful for pastors that want to learn, especially when it comes to ethnic multiplication, when it comes to languages, different people groups that you're doing that. How do people get a hold of y'all?
Yeah, so you can find us at ve.church is the website for our church, but you could also find me on Instagram, Alex Soler. Find us on Facebook, Alex Soler, Eddie Soler. Email, phone number. Do we do all that stuff too?
No, you don't do that. They'll find you on Instagram. They'll find you around there.
I was going to say,
I did have someone release a phone number one time on a podcast, but hey, you could do that too. But
I was going to give them your phone number.
Yeah, please do. Please
get all
do.
the answers that way.
Eddie, just take a second and encourage. I think there's a lot of women in ministry, maybe some bivocational ones that are just, it's a struggle right now. Y'all know the pains of people leaving, the pains of growth, the pains of just the struggle. You give some encouragement, and then I'll let you close it out.
Cool.
I will tell you, God called you, accept the call, but know that you don't have to do everything at once. There are different moments and there are different seasons in your life, and you had to learn what that's going to look like. Sometimes part of the ministry is just being a mom. Part of the ministry is just staying at home while your husband is doing the work at the church. Kids eventually are going to grow up and you'll be able to do other things, but also understand that, not every wife is also a pastor. So identify your role in this ministry so that you can have peace. There's a lot of things that we want to do as women, right? We care for people, we love people. That's awesome. Let's continue to do that, but also take care of yourself. Because if you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult for you to take care of others, especially the ministry that you have at home. So we'll love you.
That's so good.
Yeah, that's gold right there. I would also just add to that, celebrate each other. We're each other's biggest cheerleaders, quite literally. And so we celebrate each other publicly as much as possible. We cheer each other on. And then lastly, man, have people in your corner as don't be afraid to build your team outside of people in your building.
Yes.
In other words, part of our team are spiritual fathers and mothers. We got incredible people, therapists. My therapist is part of my team. I'm awesome body. And so build your team outside of your building to allow your life to have some health, some healthy voices, and don't be afraid. Don't take multiplication as a style, as a fad, as a romantic this mindset. Oh, everybody's talking about it. Now, don't do that. Just wait on a word from God. He will speak to you, and when that time comes, take your step. He'll make it all happen.
I love that. The Solers, they're such a great family. Thank you guys for being on here. Hey, I told you we would give you value every single month, and it's exciting to see what God's doing, even in the Assemblies of God through different ethnic fellowships and different languages. And that area of our movement is growing like an incredible, and what a massive need to help in those areas. So thanks for thinking outside the box and doing things amazing. Hey, we are excited that you're joining us. We're excited you're part of this team. And if you want to know more about CMN, you can always go to iwanttoplantachurch.com. You go to a launch event, we'll help you launch. We'll help you multiply at our multiply events. We have multiple multiply events happening next year. And make sure you're at our conference. We do our conference every March there in Houston. But we really believe the best is yet to come.